If you've been shopping around for raised garden beds lately, you've probably noticed something shocking. Those things are expensive. Whether it's galvanized metal, cedar, or plastic composite, the price tags can easily hit a few $100s for a single 4x8 bed. But here's the truth. Most retailers won't tell you you don't need to spend all that money to grow healthy, high-yield crops. In fact, you can build a raised bed that performs even better than store-bought ones using simple, cheap materials. And I'll show you exactly how. As a soil doctor, I've tested countless bed types and soil mixes, and this one consistently outperforms the rest in drainage, microbial life, and plant vigor. Let's dig in. The problem with expensive raised beds isn't just the cost, it's the materials. Most commercial raised beds look nice at first glance, but they aren't always practical. Metal beds heat up too fast under the sun, stressing root systems and drying soil quickly. Wood beds, even cedar or redwood, eventually rot from constant moisture contact. Plastic and composite options can, leach chemicals and often fail under heavy soil pressure after just a few seasons. You end up paying a premium for something that either compromises soil health or, needs replacement too soon. A well-designed bed should do three things: maintain steady moisture, allow free drainage, and provide an environment where soil biology thrives. You can achieve all that with a fraction of the cost if you build it yourself using what's already available. Think natural, breathable, and decomposable materials that enrich your soil rather than suffocate it. The cheapest, most effective raised bed is made right from the ground up. Instead of buying frames, start by defining your bed directly on the ground. Mark out the size you want. 4 feet wide is ideal, so you can reach the center without stepping on the soil, and 8 feet long is practical for most spaces. The secret to this method is layering organic matter that decomposes over time, creating a self-feeding soil ecosystem. This is what we call a lasagna bed. Start with a base layer of cardboard or thick newspaper. This smothers any remaining weeds while inviting earthworms to move in from below. Then, you'll want to pile on about 6 to 8 inches of high-carbon material like dry leaves, straw, or even shredded paper. After that, just add a 2 to 3 inch layer of nitrogen-rich matter, fresh grass clippings, kitchen scraps, or manure. Finally, top it off with a rich mix of compost and native soil in a 1-to-1 ratio. If done right, this method builds a bed that's about 12 to 16 inches tall, which is deep enough for most vegetables. The layers will slowly break down, feeding your crops season after season. And here's the beauty. You don't need any boards, screws, or fancy frames. Your plants grow in living, dynamic soil rather than in an artificial box. Understanding the science behind why this works makes all the difference. This cheap raised bed works because it mimics natural soil building. In nature, organic matter falls, decomposes, and feeds the soil food web. When you layer carbon and nitrogen materials correctly, you're replicating that exact cycle, but faster. So the bottom woody layer, it actually holds air and prevents waterlogging. The carbon layer, on the other hand, balances moisture, while the nitrogen layer kickstarts microbial activity. By the time you're ready to plant, the bed is warm, alive, and absolutely teeming with beneficial bacteria and fungi that form these wonderful symbiotic relationships with your roots. If you're aiming for precise ratios, you'll want to shoot for about 2 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen by volume. For example, say you use 4 buckets of dried leaves. You'd balance that with 2 buckets of green waste, like grass clippings or manure. This keeps the decomposition balanced and helps you avoid that sour, anaerobic smell that can happen when nitrogen dominates. Here's how to maintain and refresh your DIY bed each season. At the end of every growing season, don't disturb the bed too much. Simply remove spent plants, chop them up, and leave the roots in the soil. They'll decompose and feed your next crop. If the bed height drops over time, just top it up with a few inches of compost and mulch. Mulching is really key. It keeps the moisture steady and protects soil life. Every 2 or 3 seasons, rebuild the upper layers by adding more straw, compost and manure in the same 2-to-1 carbon to nitrogen balance. That's all the maintenance needed. You can even convert multiple beds into a permanent system using natural dividers like logs, rocks, or even thick piles of mulch instead of wooden frames. Real-world results show how powerful this method can be. I've tested this approach against store-bought, galvanized beds filled with commercial potting soil, and honestly, the difference is undeniable. In the DIY organic bed, tomatoes grew taller, the soil retained moisture longer, and earthworm populations multiplied rapidly. In one comparison, kale planted in this natural bed produced about 30% more leaf mass over 8 weeks than those in a $200 metal bed. The reason is simple. Living soil doesn't just feed plants, it partners with them. You can also tailor this system to your climate. In hot, dry areas, just add more high-carbon material like straw to hold water. In wetter climates, increase drainage with more woody material at the base. You're not locked into one formula, you adjust based on what your soil and weather demand. Why spending less can actually give you healthier plants. Many gardeners assume that a higher price equals higher quality, but that's rarely true when it comes to soil systems. A cheap, homemade raised bed built with living materials not only saves you money, but also regenerates your soil naturally. It encourages biodiversity underground, supports better root development, and locks in organic matter that improves year after year. You're creating a closed-loop ecosystem, not a disposable garden container. Stop wasting money and start building soil that lasts. If you've been thinking of upgrading your garden, skip the overpriced kits and try this method. All you need is a few hours, free organic waste, and a watering can. Within a few weeks, you'll notice the soil turning dark, crumbly, and full of life, the sign of true fertility. If this guide helped you, make sure to subscribe to Soil Doctor and share this video with a fellow gardener who's been tempted to splurge on raised beds. Let's keep spreading real soil-smart gardening that saves money and builds life from the ground up.